Hello, this is How To Bob, and I've put this video together to show you how to change a tire on a motorcycle. As you can see here, this tire is in bad need of replacement. So I'm going to get started, and to get started I jack the motorcycle up in the air. I used two jack stands, one on either side for stability, and I used a car jack in the middle. Now the issue here is that the bike has to be up high enough so that the tire is removable with the fender, or you could take the fender off, which to me seemed more difficult. So I went ahead and jacked the motorcycle up and just made sure I blocked it. I recommend getting some help with stability while you're jacking it up. So we're going to go ahead and take the axle nut off. It's on the left side of the motorcycle. Just simply loosen the axle nut here. Once I remove the axle nut, I'm going to go around to the other side of the bike, and using a 12mm socket, I'm going to loosen the axle pinch bolt here. Just have to loosen it, doesn't have to be fully removed. Okay, now that I've got that loose, my next step is to remove the rear caliper stopper pin bolt, and that one will have to be removed. And I'm going to use my 14mm wrench on this one. Now while I'm taking this out, you'll notice that my exhaust is really close to the axle. With this setup, this is a factory exhaust on the Honda Shadow VT1100. With this setup, I'm able to pull the axle straight out, so I don't have to remove the exhaust. But on some models, you'll have to remove the exhaust. So I'm going to go ahead and tap the axle through, and you can see it barely makes it underneath the exhaust, which is a good thing. Then I don't have to remove the exhaust. So I can go ahead and pull that all the way out now. Inspect it for any wear. And once I get this all loose, you'll see that the axle washer will usually fall off, and it goes right here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is start to move the brake caliper up out of the way, and you'll notice once I get that up out of the way, just gently work it up. There is a collar between the caliper and the actual wheel. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off and put that out of the way. Now I can take my brake caliper and move it out of the way. It can be supported by a hook, a piece of wire, or anything like that, just to keep it out of the way. And now I can go ahead and remove my wheel from the bike. Slowly slide it to the right of the bike. There's gears on the left hand side of the bike, so you have to disengage the gears by pulling it to the right hand side of the bike and set it down on the ground. Okay, take the tire out. I simply slide it to the side. That way I didn't have to jack the bike up as high. And at this point, you can take the tire in and get it replaced on the rim, or if you're more adventurous, you can go ahead and change it yourself. And to see how to do that, you'll have to check out one of my other videos. Here's the gear mechanism on the left-hand side of the tire. And now that I have my new tire on the rim, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the tire so I can get out on the road. Simply slide the tire back in the same way it came out. And once I get it in place, kind of line it up, make sure that it's easy enough for me to lift up, because it's not light holding it up. I'm going to go ahead and put the axle in place, so once I get it lifted up, I can slide the axle in just to hold it temporarily, because I still have to put my axle washer in and my collar before I go ahead and put the axle all the way through. Okay, now that I've got all my gears meshed up on the left-hand side, I can go ahead and put the collar back in. That goes before the caliper. Then the caliper will go in next. Just line up the slot on the caliper with the disc and slide it down into place. And that should hold the collar in place. And I don't want to forget my axle washer. It goes in place here before I put the axle in. Then I can slowly slide the axle in. I used a little all-purpose grease around the axle just to help it slide in. My next step is to put my rear caliper stopper pin on, and I'm going to put a little Loctite on there first. Then I'm going to use my 14mm wrench, and I'm going to tighten it to 51 foot-pounds. Once I get that tightened down, I'm going to go to my rear axle pinch bolt, and I'm going to tighten that using my 12mm socket, and that's going to get tightened down to 19 foot-pounds of torque. Now all that's left to do is put the rear axle nut on, and that gets tightened up to 65 foot-pounds of torque. And that should complete the job once I get this tightened up. And as you can see, I've got a nice new tire and I'm ready to ride. This is How To Bob. Thanks for watching.